Hi everyone and welcome back to The Sweet Spot. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Nancy Peske today. She is the sensory smart parent. She began learning all about sensory issues when her son was 2 years old and she couldn't find any information on sensory processing problems with children at that time. So in fact, she ends up becoming the expert on it because there was no information for her to find. She has written the book Raising a Sensory Smart Child, and it's a definitive handbook for helping your children. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So Nancy, tell us, what's the hardest thing about parenting and working for you?
Well, I'm lucky in many ways because I'm a freelancer, so I have a lot of control over my time. So I can switch at the last minute. If a dentist appointment comes up, I can run to that. And if I want to just hyper focus on what I'm doing, then I can make that choice. But oddly enough, even having all of that control and freedom makes it still difficult to balance, because what happens is you're working and then you feel guilty because you're not spending quality time with your son. And then you're spending time with your son and you're just tempted to look at your iPhone and see if you got that email you were expecting. So even though you have a lot of choices and a lot of freedom, that mind can get in the way, and you start pulling yourself over here and then pulling yourself over there. So that's probably the biggest stressor.
Yeah. So how do you knowing that that's what life is like, how do you keep that all in place and together?
Well, I try to take the perspective that on any given day, I might set out with the intention to get this nice big chunk of work done. And then about 3 o'clock rolls by and I think, oh no. And so what I've come to realize is that if I look back at the big picture, right, I keep a very strict log of my billable time as a writer and an editor. So I look at that. I look at my finances, and at the end of each year, I do a little list of things that I did in all these areas of my life, right? Did I meet new people? Did I take care of my health? Did I do fun things with my families? And when I look at those big pictures, it always works out. It's only in that day that you're freaking out thinking, I'm terrible, I'm just terrible at this, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. But if you look at that bigger picture and you keep a journal or a log and you self-reflect at how you've actually spent your time, you may find that you have more balance than you thought you had.
That is great, Nancy. I can really see that, because we can get so bogged down in the day-to-day without seeing and without, acknowledging this bigger picture that we are living within.
Yes. Yeah.
So you see lots of women in your work. What's the most common thing that you seem to work with them on?
So I'm working with clients who are writing books in the mind, body, spirit field. So they're into wellness. So that's why they're perfectly free of anxiety and they eat beautifully. Not really, right?
I was going to say, do they?
And I'm the same way. I'll be working on a nutrition book and drinking a Diet Coke, which all wrong. But I would say that the big thing that I see with them is, again, that lack of balance, that's lack of a sense of balance. They may have more balance than they think, but they're judging themselves in the moment. And I think that recently, I would say in the last couple of years, I've become more and more aware of how hard we women are on ourselves, particularly moms, right? Because you have this incredibly important thing that you're doing, parenting. And if you screw it up, you're screwing up another human being. So it's really easy to get so hard on yourself and to think you have to be perfect, especially if you go out there as an expert, right? I'm supposed to be the expert on sensory issues. I did write an award-winning book on it. And one day I met my son's OT. She was in town, and we went to a Mexican restaurant. She said, gee, it's really noisy in here. And I looked at her and I looked at him, and the look on his face like, did you not write a book about why you shouldn't take your kid to a noisy restaurant? And I thought, Yeah. And I think we all have those moments, whatever our expertise is supposed to be. And maybe it's because I'm working with women so much who are putting themselves out there and saying, hey, I'm not the expert of all time, but I've learned things that I want to share with you and make your life better. I'm just very aware of how easy it is to give into that perfectionism and into that shame, that I'm not good enough somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of women do suffer from that. As much as we try and go with the flow, we always go back to that place. Well, I certainly know I do. I can't speak for everyone. That is, have I done enough? Am I doing enough?
Yes, and I think too, as moms, we so often feel judged by other moms.
Yeah.
We just think that every other mom is doing it so much better than we are.
Yeah.
We always go to their houses when they've cleaned up. So you just assume, oh, everybody else's house is clean and nobody else yells at their child and nobody else runs out of milk twice a week, but they do.
It's pretty common, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tell us, Nancy, with the sensory side of the work that you do, what are the main issues that come up, and how do you deal with those?
In terms of my son and my family? Yeah, so the deal with sensory issues is that most people's brains very automatically interpret sensory information the way it's supposed to be interpreted. So people don't even think about their senses, right? There are the 5 senses you learn about in school, but there's also the vestibular, which is your sense of movement, and there is the proprioceptive sense, which is your body in space, where my hand is. I don't have to look at it. I know where it is. I can wiggle my fingers even though I can't see it. So most people can take that for granted, but if you have sensory processing disorder, your brain is very confused by the sensations. And one of the things that happens is that you have a lot of sensitivities. And interestingly enough, it's not just physical sensitivities, but sometimes it's emotional sensitivities too. So I've got 3 people in my household, all of whom have sensory issues and emotional sensitivities as well.
Right.
So I'm cleaning with bleach, and my husband's freaking out because he can't stand the smell of bleach.
Yep.
Right. And I listen. He has a phone ring that he finds pleasant, and my son's going, "Oh, you have to stop that! Get that ring off your phone!" So our sensory issues all interfere with one another, and we have to learn to work around each other, and seriously, that everybody's got their own sensitivities, and we have to respect each other's sensitivities, even as we're respecting our own. So we try to have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah, a sense of humor helps with everything, doesn't it, Nancy? Yeah. So in today's modern world, there's so much more going on, wouldn't you say, than a few years ago? Like, I just noticed, for instance, my dad's got a new car, and when you reverse, it beeps. It's got parking assist, it beeps. And I just, it drives me crazy. I've got my old car. There's no beeping. None.
I know. It's like all the great old classic toys. They had to put a computer chip in them. So now they got lights, they got music. It's like, I just wanted to play with the toy. And I think our kids get used to so much stimulation that their bodies don't know how to process it. It's too much. And sensory processing issues are something that you can be born with. Right.
Yeah.
But they can be exacerbated by modern living.
Yeah. Yeah. And in general, like, I know you've done a lot of work in this area. How many people are affected with sensory processing?
Well, when I wrote my book back in 2005, they were saying 1 in 20 children, which is one in every classroom at least.
Yeah.
And now they're saying it's more like 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Part of that is because children with autism almost always have sensory processing disorder, and there's been an autism epidemic. But more and more, too, adults are starting to realize that they have sensory issues. So I don't know what the real numbers are. I wish we had a solid number, but it's a significant number of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, as you say, it's part of some other, like autism. It's it's part of that as well.
Yeah, and it can stand by itself. You can just have sensory issues, but it's very common to have learning differences, ADHD, autism, or something else going on.
So I know that you've, over the years, had to come up with a lot of different techniques and, ways of coping. What are they for you, Nancy?
So, in terms of the coping with my own anxiety and the pressures that I put on myself, you mean?
Actually, sure, yeah. Because we all can suffer from that. So I'm interested in how you deal with it.
So as a writer and an author and somebody who's very verbally oriented, I'm the kind of person who would work on self-help books and read wellness books, and it would all stay right here in my left analytical brain. Like I would write exercises for my clients' books, and I wouldn't do them. And it took me working with certain clients to realize, it's not the same if you're just reading about it. You actually have to do that thing that you just wrote about.
Yeah.
So I think that was the big shift for me is to understand there is no substitute for actually doing something instead of thinking about how that's a relaxing thing for me. Okay, so now do it. When was the last time you did it? So for me, the biggest stress busters that I use are, first of all, my physical environment. I like to be in a physical environment where I can see nature, where I have natural lighting, right? Where I'm comfortable. I've got a comfortable chair. I often will play music online that I find helps me focus or relax.
Yep.
I use aromatherapy. I have a little aromatherapy machine in my office, so I'll use that. So just during my everyday workday, I've got things going on.
Yeah.
That help me. But then also regular exercise. It's very hard for me in the winter because I live in a cold climate, so getting out in the snow and the cold is hard. But any kind of physical exercise, especially if it's outdoors in nature. And I live near a river and a lake, so that helps a lot.
Yeah.
I also do Himalayan salt baths. If you've ever seen the pink Himalayan salts. So I'll take a bath with that and Epsom salts in the dark by tea light candles.
Yeah.
That's a relaxer. I do Reiki. I have a Reiki healer who works on me for about an hour here and there.
Yeah.
So that's a real treat. I also do massages and facials, and I get them either through the beauty school downtown or through a Groupon or some other kind of discount. And what I love about the beauty school one is if you go in for a facial, they ask you how stressed you are, and I figured out if you say extremely stressed, you get a massage too for you. Like, yeah, I'm extremely stressed. And, and you don't think of these things, but a lot of women live in areas where you have a beauty school or a massage school, and they need somebody to practice on. So I think it's really important to engage in self-care.
Perfect. I tell you, that's perfect. And a way that it can be affordable within our budgets as well.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to be creative in figuring out, and maybe let's say that you run a business as an accountant and you know somebody who does massage. Well, do a swap with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even just having some girl time. I remember when I was pregnant and one of my best friends was pregnant as well. And she said, Kim, when was the last time you could see your toes? Like, we were very pregnant. Yeah. And I said, it's been a while. And she said, let's do pedicures on one another. So, our big bellies got down and we did pedicures on one another. And we haven't done it since. But what a great way to have a girly afternoon and feel great as well.
Yeah. And I have a couple of close girlfriends who, like me, find it incredibly relaxing to be in nature. So when we get together, instead of drinking wine, we typically go out in nature and walk down by the river. And
Yeah.
so that's how we get together and talk and socialize with each other, is doing something physical in nature.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great advice. And you're also very much into mindfulness. Can you talk to us about that, Nancy?
Yeah, I think that one of the issues that happens with anxiety and stress is that we're not in the present moment. We're either worrying about the past or thinking the past, oh, it was so great, I wish I could get back to the past, right? But the past isn't real. And neither is the future. The future isn't real yet. So we can start to get really anxious about what might happen. And we're just creating something in our minds that hasn't happened yet and doesn't necessarily have to happen. So what mindfulness does is pull you back to the present moment, right? And so that's why I practice it, because I find that it's easier to let go of those anxious thoughts and that spiral of, oh no, I didn't do this. What if this happens? It's easier to let go through mindfulness.
And do you find that to get into that mindful state, that present moment state, difficult, or is it something that you remember to do because you practiced it so much, or how is that for you?
So I heard about mindfulness meditation for years, and I didn't do it because, again, it's one of those things. That's one of those things you should do, right?
But it was one of the things you were writing about.
Right, exactly. I write how to meditate. Do I do it? No. But I mean, mindfulness it doesn't have to be a sitting meditation, for starters. And I think for a lot of people, especially high energy people or people with ADHD, doing something physical beforehand, just even doing some yoga poses or taking a walk or some calisthenics beforehand seems to help calm your mind a little faster if you want to do a sitting meditation. But you can also meditate looking at the waves. Sit on the beach and look at the waves and pay attention, just pay attention to the sound of the waves as they come in. And there will be a wave here and there will be a wave here. And they come in at different times, and just focusing on that sound is a type of mindfulness. And what I have found is there are cumulative effects. So even if you're doing it for 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, it becomes easier to get into it. And you won't stop the thoughts in your head, but they won't be as loud, they won't be as intense, and you won't find yourself going, wait, I've been thinking for the last 10 minutes and not meditating.
Yeah.
This practice is the practice of pulling your mind back. So it doesn't matter how often it wanders. What matters is every time it wanders, as soon as you notice, you bring it back. So that's the key to mindfulness. And when somebody told me that, I thought, oh, I could actually do that. And what I found is very quickly it became easier to get into that state.
Yeah, great. And that gentle coming back rather than, oh, I can't do this.
Right. You can't, it defeats the purpose if you immediately create this negative judgmental thought about yourself. That's just part of the process. And if I told you to go and do some ballet move that you'd seen on TV and do it right now perfectly, you'd say, it's going to take some time for me to learn and practice it, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it comes to mindfulness, we think we're supposed to get it like boom, and we're supposed to be there, boom. It's not going to happen for anyone that way.
Yeah. So gentle and consistent.
Yeah, and just keep trying it. And even if you can do 5 minutes, I feel like you should do it to the point where you feel the inner shift. And for me, sometimes that's as little as 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it took a while, maybe some 20-minute sessions every day for a week or two, and then you'll realize, oh, now I'm getting there much more quickly.
I do notice when I do my meditation as well, Nancy, that when I get really present, it's like almost like body memory. My body just goes, oh yeah, we're doing this now.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, and it can be quite instant now, but I have been doing it for many years now. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people get it into their heads that you're supposed to do it 20 minutes twice a day, every single day, or I don't know, the meditation police come and arrest you. But
closely followed by the green smoothie police and the exercise monitors and the
yes, all of those people who show up at your door. But when he was 15 years old, I thought he would benefit from mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
So I signed him up for our local recreation department meditation and yoga class. And I said, "You're going. We'll just drop you off." And so he wasn't too happy about that. And I said, "Look, now that you've done it, here's the deal. 20 minutes a day, every day for 2 weeks. And you patrol yourself. I'm not going to come in and make sure you're doing it." I said, "And then if you never do it again, that's fine with me. And I'll get you a $65 Lego set." And okay, that'll do. And so what happened was, even though he does not meditate every day or even every week, now he has a tool. So if he has insomnia, if he has anxiety, if he's got a test coming up, if he's in gym class and he has the wind knocked out of him and he gets hurt, he has his tool and he knows it works for him.
That's so great. That's so great. And you have a technique that you can show us, don't you, Nancy?
Yes, I do.
Shall we do that?
Yeah. So I'm going to teach you the mindfulness technique that I use. So the first thing I want you to do is get comfortable in your chair. You don't have to put your hands in a special position. You just have to let go of all the ideas you had about meditation. Close your eyes. If you're anxious, you can just open your eyes a little and focus on a spot ahead of you. But just as you're there, notice what it feels like to inhale and exhale. Feel the air coming through your nostrils and leaving gently, easily. Your body's doing it automatically. So you're going in and out. And you can think to yourself as you breathe in, cleanse. And as you exhale, release. Cleanse, release. Cleanse, release. Just notice the sensation. And then you can open your eyes. And you feel a shift, a little bit of a shift in your body, and the tension. And what's happened is that you have turned on your parasympathetic nervous system. And it does all of these things biochemically in your body to tell all the parts of your body to relax. So the stress hormones get washed out of your body. It repurposes them. And your breathing gets deeper. Even though you're not trying to breathe more deeply, you are breathing more deeply and taking in more air. And the blood flow to your brain is actually changing. You're getting blood flow to more parts of your brain. So that's all you have to do. And even, as I say, if you do it for 3 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And if you've got an app, or you've got some kind of notification on your phone or on your desktop computer, have a little pop-up that says, take your 3 minutes now, and just do it. Close your door, take the lights down low. It can also help if you're listening to calming, relaxing music while you're doing it, but often I'll just do it sitting in a comfortable chair that supports my back. And that's it.
And anywhere, as long as you're not driving, really.
Yeah. And I mean, I can do it on a bus. I can do it when I'm in line someplace and everybody's angry because, it's chaotic and the lines are long. I'll just close my eyes for a moment. And sometimes I'll even keep my eyes open, but I'll just focus on that inhalation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes those words, cleanse, release, can really help too.
Yeah. And just then, we wouldn't have done it for 5 minutes, would we? That was only a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel the difference just in a couple of minutes. Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to do it. Don't keep it here. That's that thing I was going to do.
You have to actually do it.
Yeah.
And just in closing, Nancy, have you got any other advice or tips for our beautiful viewers today?
Yes, be gentle with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to your friend, your best friend, who's going through a difficult time. And one of the things that people don't talk about enough that I feel is so important is to get out into nature. Our bodies were designed to be in nature. In 5 minutes, nature changes your body chemistry, according to studies. So if you can't be out in nature, bring nature pictures into your room, bring aromatherapy, bring plants, bring a little tabletop water fountain. Have a cat or a dog. Have nature in the spaces that you stay, but also get out in nature. It seems to remind you that you're part of something larger than yourself, and that was always there and always will be there. And somehow that's calling for our systems.
Beautiful. I think, in general, we do all feel so much better when we get out for a walk or to the beach or go lie on the grass in the park.
Yes, absolutely. Don't keep it here. Go and do it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Nancy. It's been wonderful, and I love the technique that you just showed us how to do, because it is so simple.
Yes, it is.
Thank
Simple
you.
and very effective. So thank you, Kim.
Exactly. Simple and effective. Exactly. Yeah. Now we've got all links to Nancy if you want to get in touch with her on the page below. And we thank you so much for being with us today, Nancy. And thanks for all the viewers for being with us as well. And we'll see you tomorrow on The Sweet Spot. Bye for now.
Bye.